So welcome to part 3. Got cut off rather sharpish. Very strange thing. I had a conversation with a BT operative and I just said, I'm really sorry, I'm streaming live. I can't speak now. And the internet went down. That's too much of a coincidence, is that? So when I finished, I shall be phoning them up and saying, do that again. So we have the Derwent guard and a scalpel blade. Push the pencil up to the top, and round pencils are better because you can turn them as you go. I'm actually going to turn that over, it's not going to damage it, so you can see what I'm doing. You don't really want it on there, you want it on a surface because it has a little rubber mat there, strips, so it stops it from moving, but you won't be able to see what I'm doing. So I use this guide as to start there, and you want to use it almost sliding it across, just the slightest bit of pressure because you're taking slithers off. So basically you're just taking very tiny slithers, and again this can slip, it's not going to go anywhere. And I take off the wood, I don't touch the colour stick, the colour strip, the strip of colour. That's whether it's a pencil, a pastel, a watercolour or anything. Now I find it just a bit easier to push that because I find I've got more control over it. It's just, but as long as your fingers on the knife, you're fine. Because I don't have a lot of strength in this hand, but you would just kind of slide it across there. And you do need a sharp blade for this. Do not sharpen your pastels in a pastel sharpener, in a pencil sharpener. They will just disintegrate and you will go through a pencil and you will get to the end of your pencil and you'll just have nothing left, and it'll all be like this in shades. There's no reason to use a pencil sharpener. So I don't touch the strip, I just take the wood off. Now I've been doing this since I was 16, so you know, when you draw all day 9 till 4, that's a long time drawing. You go through a lot of pencils, so and then you can just start to just very carefully just take that little bit of strip off there. So the centre core of colour is called a strip. So you leave the strip alone and you just take the wood off. Now you can take more from here if you want to make it look more of a pencil. I've got, this is the way you want to do it, but I don't have any, and if you can see, all I've wasted is the wood. The pastel is just sitting there waiting for me. So that's just all wood shavings. So I don't have a point on there, but I do have a bit of a point. Now what you could do is you could scratch across and make this into a point if you wanted to. Now I don't really want to do that, but I'm going to show you what to do. If you do this, keep going. Oopsie. You will eventually get a point. My thumb doesn't work particularly well, so I have to pull backwards with this hand. But what you're doing basically is turning the pencil, and you'll get the most beautiful point that will last you quite a while. But it won't particularly with pastels, but with other pencils it will. And you can get some quite fine detail. So you just keep going. The blade is probably not quite as sharp as it should be. And there's your point. So you've got quite a nice point on there. But what I've done this for is, in here is pastel. So the first job is to put this back into here. So you can put it here very carefully. Oopsie, very carefully. Move your fingers out the way and then push it down gently into its little case. Never hold it and push it down because it can even slip out of here. So I'll show you how to. I don't like that because it's a bit hard, is that eraser. So I'll show you how I do it. This is a really soft, squidgy one, and it looks like it's going to break. So I've got to be a bit careful. So what I'm going to do is push that into here and jiggle it very carefully, knowing that if it's going to slide, it's going to go that way. It's not going to go this way. And that's given me. And then I can pull that out and I'll push it in the other way. And what I'm trying to do is make a big enough hole that I can get. I'm actually going to go in that way as well a little bit. Just a little bit. You've got to be a bit careful. And then what that allows you to do, again, move your fingers before you push it in. That's going to go in there a lot easier now than the harder one. So you want a softer one really. And by the time you stop playing with it, it will actually go in. If you cut a little bit of a triangle out very carefully, slow and steady with these knives, slow and steady. And then eventually it will go right down to the bottom with a bit of luck, and that will go onto the end. It's better than the harder one. So we've got the wood and we've got seal on here, but what we have, let me just see if I can fill that somewhere now. Hopefully that's it's not dried. Just let me dry this out and I can put the bits into here. Turn that over. So we wanted some shadow, so what we've got is in this little pot now, I'm going to use the tiny brush, and I'm going to drop water around the outside. Not too much, and as it goes down I've got a paste. I now have a watercolour. So I can put this watercolour here now in a little square of colour and squish it all out, and then when it's dried I will have a pastel watercolour in my little book. But at the moment, and there's quite a lot there, so if you were going to sharpen all your pencils to a sharp point, well, I'm not. I'm going to do them as I go along. Now, if you look, there's quite a lot of colour on there. There's quite a lot of colour in there. But I want a tiniest amount, and I shouldn't have actually mixed it with that brush, but never mind, I've done it. And then I now have a really, really dark watercolour to really emphasise. I'm actually playing that one because that's how concentrated it is, and it's more concentrated than any watercolour you'll ever buy because pastels are almost pure pigment. So I'm going to go under here to create a nice shadow, and it doesn't really matter because I mean I can actually go in all these as well. Remember, this is sanguine, this is this is seal, this isn't black, but of course it's a lot darker now because it's more concentrated. But I can go in all these. And it's a bit painful for the thumb, but it's not so bad. Just about manage that. I don't have as much control, but it's just... So you can go in and put the shadows back in now. And again, yes, it's turned into a watercolour, but it's all going to turn into a watercolour in a minute because you're going to put... And if you want to rearrange anything, put a shadow in anything, now is the time to do it. So waste not, want not. So now I can keep that, and if I do all the blacks and the greys because I've used them, then I'm going to, so this one is Seal 660, and it makes a really nice dark grey. So all under there. As a pencil it was dark, but as a watercolour it's suddenly become quite dark. The more you water it down, the more colour you've got. So we can kind of really sharpen those up now. That shadow would be bigger and it will get smaller. So we want to be under here, and the guttering ones. I'm not doing the shadow, I'm doing the guttering. I'm just leaving the tiniest bit of light on the top of that guttering because there would be a bit of a pale light onto there. The same with this one. I don't have a lot of control of my thumb, so I'm going to be a bit careful. And then we can kind of go in here with all these darks and darken them up. So again, this is suddenly turning into a watercolour. But you've got those soft pastels first. Just a touch more water because it's quite thick, is this now? It's quite thick. And I can re-emphasise all those. And I know you can use the slightest dampness on photo paper, so again I'm not particularly bothered about that. And this is drying already, so that's brilliant, because that would be in my colour book. So we've got quite dark under there, and then we've got all this dark. And we knew this was going to be dark anyway, because actually this little tiny brush is not so bad actually. And again, you can reinforce the fact that that tile has completely slipped out of there. It has a shadow now underneath it. There we go. It's really kind of bringing that to life. And again, it's not black, it's seal. It's not black. So we want to kind of be under here as well. And there will be a shadow there. And there would be a shadow there. And a shadow at the top. And actually, there would be a shadow right across there because of this. And then there would be their own shadow. Made it a bit bigger actually. So I've put a shadow on there. Don't think it's in the right place, but it's in. So we've got that shadow, and then we have this shadow. And the light's high up, so you're going to have the roof shadow. But it's not going to be as strong. It's not really going to be as strong as that, really. But you can start to get some quite nice shadows going. You've just got to keep remembering what side everything's on. So the window's got its own shadow, and then we have a little bit of a shadow on there, and then that would be in shadow. And under there's going to be in shadow. That's a shadow. And then just the edge is not in shadow there. That's going to be a shadow. The shadow's longer at that side. Just a bit. I don't want as dark a shadow here really, but I need a bit of a shadow here. Now you won't be able to take a lot of this off because it's watercolour, so you've got to be a little bit careful when you do this. Got to be just a bit careful. When you do this, because too much and you've lost it. And there would be shadow in here because so we've got a bit of a shadow on the door, and I think I'm going to put that away now. So there's your sharp pencil, and there's your highlight and your watercolour, all in one. There's quite a lot of colour in there. So if I now want to go back in with pencil, I've got my sharp point to go there. And we can play under there. Because the brighter the sunshine, I think the darker the shadow. Now this is not blended yet, so get a little tiny blender. And we just want to leave the tiniest bit on top, but not there. So we think the roof might look okay. Now we get to the fun bit now. Now we can get to the fun bit, the flowers. I need to put that somewhere safe for it to dry. We could do the trees. I'm going to put all these pencils back because I don't need them now. So I want to put them back in order because I just like them back in order. Vanilla is the lightest one apart from white. So I have my white down there, even though it's 720. Put my white at the bottom here next to vanilla. Then I've got my pale greys, so that's 580. Because if I don't do this, they'll end up on the floor and then they'll end up broken. So I have to try to keep things in order. And then we must have the last one, which is the seal, which is now pointed, and eventually they'll all look like that. Eventually all my pencils will look like this, because this is how I sharpen them. These have come from the factory. Has anybody got any questions? So sorry about the problems with the BT. I haven't put the new hub in yet because my daughter had to put an online work into college, and I daren't trust BT to mess it up, so I left it. Right, now we need some hollyhocks. So hollyhocks are kind of peachy pinky colours, I think. So a bit of a sad girl, but I'm going to Google so we can have some proper colours. It's always easier to use a reference. Oh, these are quite pretty. We had some purple ones. I like the purple ones. Oh, I think that's definitely cottagey, those. Definitely cottagey. Come on, in your own time. I didn't press that one. I pressed that one. Yeah, I quite like those. So we've got a very deep purpley pink. Oops, I've got a message. I have a message. Oops. Oh, my daughter, bless her. Is there anything you want from Cass Art? Yes, pencils. There was a Cass Art in Manchester. Oh dear. I'll better text her back in a second. It's gone now. Oh, I never got rid of everything. Oh, let me just go back to Google. So we wanted some pinky purples, didn't we? Sorry about that. Just have a quick slurp. I don't know why BT's being naughty. Actually, I think they're probably more cottagey. The pink ones. So we have a pale pink. We have 3 pinks, and we have a crimson. So I think these are going to be okay. I think 4 colours is going to be enough. Yep. Yep, 4 colours is going to be enough. So I'm going to put them in colour order like I normally do. So darkest, palest to pale. And we'll start going on the inside. So the insides are going to be quite dark. I'm going to do this one first. And then we've got a little bit more pinky colour to go on. Actually, I think they're leaves, aren't they? Yeah, green. That's green leaf, so I've got to be a bit careful there. Then we'll have the next one. It's a bit pinky salmony, this one actually, but and then we'll have the pale one on the outside. I'm using my thumb, which I shouldn't do. Just have to remember not to use the thumb. So I'm going to go in with this little tiny, little squishy one. Going to blow the dust off, but there isn't much. I'll zoom in a bit so you can see what I'm doing. And we need Sooty back because we forgot to after BT decided to chuck me out. Hopefully that's okay. Yep, that's Sooty. Might be better. So these are the hollyhocks. So just outside first, then to the inside. No, I think I like this one actually. I'm going to go with a little one. So outside and then in, outside then in, the pale first. And we're not going to get much detail, but it's going to be quite nice. So I think we could have, just test the colour just in case I don't like it. It's quite nice. We could have a deep one at the back, so we could have a deeper hollyhocks. Again, you've got to remember this is a colour page, so it's not going to be quite as detailed. And then I think we'll just have a very pale, the palest pink. In fact, I think there's a flesh colour. I think we'll go with probably flesh, I think. Yep, flesh colour's quite pale. Very pale is the flesh one. And then we're just going to have a bit of pink in the middle. The palest pink just in the middle. And then we can very carefully smush it. There's not a lot of dust there, so I'm getting better at not wasting the pastel, so that's quite nice. And then we need some greens, but I'm going to put the pinks away first. So thanks for joining me, guys. I'm sorry it's a bit disgruntled today, especially with BT chucking me out. But not happy about that. Again, a good idea to pop the pencils back because they'll end up on the floor. But I suppose I could get them out individually, but I wanted to have a bit of a play. I'm going to try and keep things on the right and pencils on the left, so it's a bit easier for me. I quite like those. I quite like those little hollyhocks. Very pale. But when I put some green in, and again, we want to look at the green because I think it's a paler green. Yeah, so it's just kind of a the pea green, the May green. So let's have a look. We have an emerald, a pea green, an emerald, and a pale. So I think we're going to have a bit of this because it is going to be a very bright sunny day. So we're going to have quite bright. This is where you can kind of start to be that bit more creative. Especially with the hollyhocks, because it's quite going to put some different colours in there. A bit of a lighter colour just to give a bit of variation. But there's going to be a lot of green at the background anyway, so they'll pop out in a little bit. So has anybody got any questions? Are we still live? Have we broken Ustream? No, I think we might just be okay. So just blow the dust and then just carefully arrange that green to sit in those leaves. This is a little bit softer, this one, but I quite like it, so it's okay. So we've got some hollyhocks there now. The light seems a bit too bright. It does seem just a little bit too bright there. See if we can just get that down a bit. Hopefully we can just see. Just a little bit. I think that's better. I think that's just a little bit better. Let's have a look at the door. Oh, the door's completely disappeared, so perhaps not. Just bear with me, I'm just going to take that. Just want to see that grey on that door. It's not going to pick the grey up. No, I can't pick the grey up, so we'll just have to leave it as it is. Sorry about that. It's a very pale, pale grey it is. Very pale grey. These look like roses, I think, and they look like yellow daisies. So go back to cottage flowers. think they could be roses. They look like kind of a bit of a. We like the hedge. We could do the hedge next, possibly. They look a bit big for roses. I think they're. Let me have a look. Oh, they could be roses. I think they're rhododendrons, though. That's what I was thinking of. Big rhododendrons. Oh, they're big roses. I think big rhododendrons would be good. Yep, they're rhododendrons. Look. I think the big rhodies would be good. And a hedge. And hedges are normally quite bright. So this is kind of the whoopsie, there could be a backlit. Oh, little man, it's freezing and he's got his shorts on. That's our postman. Our postman. Alfie, stop it. No, I'm not going to stop it, Mummy. I'm going to be bad. I'm going to take all the paintwork off the door because I want to. Shh, sorry. Here he goes. The Alf. Shh. The Alfies. Yeah, this is the Alfie. This is the Alfie. Sorry. Bark alert. Grumpy boy. Shh. He has to have a muzzle on when he goes outside now because he's just a bit too naughty when he goes outside. He's only near to a grasshopper. I don't know why he wants to be so bad. So bad, Alf. Sorry about that. Oh, hi, Karen. Welcome to Bunny's Designs. I was having a spot of bother with the internet, and I'm having a spot of bother with the Alf. So, apologies. I'm still working my little cottage. It's a bit flashed out, actually. Sorry about that, guys. I've been playing with the colour, and I possibly shouldn't have played with the colour. Should have left it where it was. So, yeah, I played with the colour too much. So let me just take that down a bit. So, put the brightness to there, the contrast to there, and the colour to... You see, there's something funny about greens. I don't know what it is about greens. Oh, for goodness sake, Alfie. It had some greens earlier and now they've just disappeared now. Oh, so I can't do greens because they look yellows. Yeah, that's not, it's a pea green, is that? So greens are definitely funny. They're very funny, our greens. He's still chuntering, bless him. He's still chuntering. And I'm going to put that in the middle. If I pan out a little bit. The colour's not so bad on it, it's just that silly green here. That's going to drive me insane. I think I'm going to go over the flowers and then I'm going to just take take it off with the eraser. I think that's the easiest way to do it. But I wanted a bit of dark contrast under here, that's what I wanted. So we could tell that was actually a shrub. But it's not working quite as well as I wanted it to do, but again, I think this is the grassy bit, this bit. So we need to just kind of smush out a bit of that. Oops. So let's have a quick look and see. So I've played about with the colour, which I shouldn't have done, should have left it alone, but got a bit of a shadow going on there. We could do the bird table, and there seems to be a lot of green in there now. Just have a look for, that looks a nice pale blue. Have a look for this pale blue. I think that will do for the is it hydrangea? I can't remember what I said now. So hydrangeas I think are blue if it's acid and pink if it's alkaline, but it's probably going to be the other way around. Wasn't that one of Agatha Christie's, the blue geranium? She put litmus paper on it and it turned pink. So I think that had something to do with it. Again, just a little tiny bit of a smush, and then I think we want quite a dark green to go with it, because they're very pale, are those, very pale. So we'll look, yes, we want a really rich, deep forest green colour there, definitely. Just check. And this pencil needs sharpening, but so I think we could just put some greenery in here. Just to give it a bit of contrast. I think like the little firmer one, even though it's quite soft, it can kind of get into spaces quite nicely and just give that bit of something else to it. And there is a bit of green on there, so it's kind of doing its own thing, kind of. So we have a bit of a contrast. Maybe a little bit purplier than that. There are pale blue ones, but I think I could just put a little bit of blue in there. Just a speckle of blue, because you're going to behave yourself now, little boy. Speckle of blue in there. Just to give it a bit of contrast. Probably should have taken the green off, but hey ho. These are going to be bright yellow, I think. going to be cadmium yellow, I think. Well, they could be dog daisies actually, but I've changed my mind. They're going to be oxeye daisies, I think, which have got, I think they've got orange centres, but I'm going to use tomato. And we do have to clean the blending tool for this because we don't want green in everything. Oh, it's come out quite. So again, a bit of a yellow smush. If we do the yellow first around all of them, oopsie. If we do the yellow ones first, we won't end up with mud. We do the yellow first. And then we'll go around and we'll put the centres in. And then we want a very, very dark green this time. Extremely dark. There is a dark olive, that might look quite nice there. I didn't want this to be an olive colours though, because it's kind of an ivy, so I was trying to save that a little bit. Mix these greens together. So I'm missing hubby because he's not brought me any tea. So there's some more flowers growing on there. And then we wanted raw umber, brown earth, burnt umber. So remember that side's where the light's coming, but it's a bit of at the front, so this will be in shadow, this won't be. So this has to be the palest colour here, and on top the palest colour, and then just on the edges of all those. So we're going to have pale, quite pale, this is pale, and that will be quite pale, and this will be pale. Oh, sorry, didn't realise I wasn't in frame. And then the next colour is going to be the shadow one, and up there, and in there, and then inside this one be a little bit of light. It's going to be very dark, and then that one will be dark. The edges will be dark, and I'm going to go in these to kind of make sure that these are the darkest. A little bit down there. That would be a bit of lighter. That would be a bit of light. And then this would be darker. And then that would be very dark. So that's roughly where we are, I think. And then we just need to blend that out a little bit and it should be better. So I'm just going to put the pencils back because I don't need them out. Nope, that definitely does not go there. It goes there. It's 570. I cannot read today. 370. Because I know that if I don't put them away, they'll end up on the floor, probably broken. So, got to be a bit careful. $4.30. Two more to go. So a bit of a sad girl, but if I put them all together, I end up keeping them all neat, because if I have them out, they'll end up on the floor. So blow a little bit of dust off there, and then we'll go in with the quite fine. Oh, we'll go with the softer one first. I'll clean that one first. So it's the first time I've used these little softy ones that I got from the works. So there will only been £1 or £2, I think. But they are quite soft. Now, I know the white ones are supposed to be, the ivory ones are soft, and the dark grey ones, but with obviously this being a, just trying to clean that, and it's having a moment. So we can smush that around and make that quite nice. And the softer one doesn't push it into the, it kind of doesn't push it around as much, but sometimes that can be quite nice. So I've missed this bit here, but I think if I just get some dark on here, I can use it in there and it'll look okay. So I really want to do all these pale first. Just want to keep that highlight on there if we can. Do all the highlights first. can then do is to kind of smush that further up. This is quite good for moving it forward, so you should get a nice movement from that highlight to that shadow. Should be quite nice. We haven't touched the black shadow at all, the sanguine. We have not touched that at all. Just blending that middle tone in there. And remember, this is the first layer, so we can do all sorts in a minute. I do actually like the bigger blending tool, actually. I do like the bigger one, I have to say. It's just got a nicer feel. And I've gone into the darker ones first, which was a bit silly, but the beauty of this is we can still play about with the eraser if we make such a big boo-boo. So get quite a nice highlight on that. I am going to clean that though, just purely because I would like the front to be fairly pale before I hit that bit of a shadow. I cannot believe the light is playing havoc today. Oh, that's slightly better. Slightly better. It isn't for me, it's ridiculously silly light for me, but it does look slightly better on there. So I need to go in with the eraser and take, first of all I need to put the tiniest bit of dark on there, so we can use the burnt umber. As a highlight, sorry, as a shadow. Just mix that in a bit. And whatever's through here, oh no, it won't, it'll be dark because it'll be the roof of the, actually that wants to be very dark, just that even darker than the other thing, so that was a mistake. So this is the darkest one here. That's better. So I need to take off, and I just have to be a little bit precise for this. Oops, which I'm not being. And then we can just take the highlight from here. And I quite like this because it's quite nice if you make a bit of a boo-boo. You can go in there and just give it a little tiny bit of cheat. So we need to keep that the palest. So we want a highlight right next to that shadow, which worked quite well because that was just that little bit too orange. and we need on the top. Got to be a bit careful because I've got my so we can brush that off, and that's not too bad. The little birdhouse has got a little bit of a highlight on it, and it's got a bit of a highlight and some highlights there. So one thing I haven't done is actually done the shadow here. So just push that down a bit because we don't want to lose any of those shadows. We can go in with a bit of a pointy if we want to go in, and I could go back in with that watercolour that I made earlier if I really want to. If I really want to emphasise some darks, then I can do that. Now, but I think that's enough. I think that's going to be enough. I think that's going to be enough. Just blend that across. And we can put some birdseed on here, which is going to be kind of breadcrumbs. Peanuts or something. Some kind of seed on there, that will just do for that. That's quite happy to sit there. Then if we really wanted to, we could put the tiniest bit of shadow behind all those nuts. Just the tiniest bit of shadow behind there. So we know that those so we've got some kind of green foliage going on over there. So how long have we been going? We've been going about an hour. So I'll just zoom out and you can see how far we've got with our little stone cottage. So it's coming along. Sometimes you start with the backgrounds, but I started with different things. Dog's poddling in and the other's poddling out. So again, sorry about my light. It seems to have gone a bit kind of skew with as my light. Maybe that's a bit better. So we've got a few flowers. That's a better colour. Got a few flowers, a few tiles missing off our roof, but there we go. So this is going to be kind of tumbled down roses, I think. So I'm actually going to stop this particular video purely because it's gone for an hour and Ustream's not behaving itself particularly well today. So thank you for watching. That's the end of part 2 of our little stone cottage, country cottage with Derwent pencils. Thanks for watching.